So, this story happened about 11 years ago. I was a senior in high school at the time, but it is the single most mind-boggling thing that I have ever experienced. It's also important to note that it happened in mid-December. I am from Iowa, and the winters here get cold at night. Like if you get stuck outside, you would die kind of cold. That, plus the snowfall, makes everything dead silent. You can hear everything, and everything inside the house, and even immediately outside of it. While me and my best friend were hanging out in my family's walkout basement, just having a boring winter night playing video games, we were also the only ones home. The reason it was just us is because my mother went from work straight to a bar to grab a few drinks with co-workers. So, me and my friend thought it would be a good idea to break into the family wine and live a little. As we were sitting there, opening up the first bottle, I hear the door to the garage open and slam shut. I immediately go and start looking for places to hide the bottle. My friend then says, "I thought your mom was supposed to be out all night." "She was," I replied. I then heard a few heavy stumps and hear my mother yell out, "Anyone home?" I yell back up the stairs, "Yup, just hanging out in the basement." I hear a few more steps move from the garage door towards the stairs and she yells out again, "Can you come and help me with something? I need you up here." I reply back while frantically trying to find a good place to hide the wine bottle. "Yup, give me just a minute." Then, there was silence for about 20 seconds. "Anyone down there with you?" she yelled back in a more concerned, serious tone, in a voice that was slightly off of my mother's. This was the first thing that told me something wasn't right. Our family never cared if anyone was over, as our house was a very open house to all family and friends. And the voice, it was just wrong. Like it sounded like my mother's, but it was missing something that I couldn't put my finger on. Authenticity, maybe. Weirded out, I replied back, "Just Colton." After I yelled that back to her, I found a good place to hide the bottle and began walking up the stairs to the next level. Now, as I was walking up the stairs, I couldn't help but feel the overbearing silence of the house and the slight electric twinge that something isn't right. When I got to the top of the steps, I look over to where the door to the garage is, and also the kitchen right next to it, and it's black, pitch black. All of the lights were off, and there was no moonlight shining through any windows. I walked over to the kitchen yelling out, "Mom, where are you?" There was no reply, just silence and darkness. I feel the electric twinge turning into 4 needles and my adrenaline kicking in full force. I have to get out of here as fast as possible. I run back down the stairs, grabbing my coat along the way. "What's wrong?" Colton says, "My mom's not home." I reply as fast as I can, looking for my truck keys. "What do you mean? You were just talking with her." I could see the confusion in his face. "There's no one home. We need to leave now." I took a few steps towards the back door that opens up to the yard, and then I see my dog shaking on the couch and my cat growling behind it. I couldn't leave them. I just knew that if we left, something would happen. "Are we leaving?" Colton said, still confused as all hell. "No, I can't leave them here alone. Something is really off. I'm going to call my mom and figure this out." I pull out my phone and call my mom. She picks up immediately. "What's going on?" She answers. "Mom, were you just home? I heard you yelling for me from the 2nd level, and when I went up, you weren't there." I said frantically, hoping that she was playing a joke. "No, I'm just leaving the bar. I wasn't feeling very well. Are you okay?" "What do you mean you heard me?" I fill her in on the whole story, and she rushes home. Colton and I stayed in the basement with the animals until she got home, but before she did, she could hear something upstairs. Not walking or sitting on things, but a pressure in the air, like a black hole was slowly moving from one room to the next. And the word that I would instinctively describe it as is hungry. When she got home, she could feel the thing leave just as quick as it came, like an overbearing, predatory presence had just flown away. We still never figured out what the hell was going on, and this is just one story of many unexplainable things that have happened to us. But this is the easiest to write down, and one that I was happy to have a witness. My mother has now passed away, and I have moved away to Arizona, but when I go back to Iowa and I see Colton, he still gets creeped out by what had happened. I will never truly know what happened, but I know that whatever it was had my mother's voice. It was evil, and it was hungry. Since you all liked my last story, I have another one about growing up in that house. This one is a little bit less straightforward, and more of a sequence of scary instances about the death of my father. Not outright scary, but more unnerving. I was 14 when my father was diagnosed with cancer. Being 14, I didn't truly understand what this meant for me and my family. Everyone was distraught, and the happy house that we all had surrounding us turned into a calm yet sad environment. Like every day, you would want the clock to stop so you just had a little more time. Things didn't get weird till closer to the end. It was a slow start that quickly turned the house sour. It all started one night after my father had a fall in the kitchen. He was pretty roughed up and laid down in his chair in the main floor, directly under the third-story loft that looked out into the big living room in the center of the house, adjacent to the kitchen. My mother was sleeping on the couch towards the end of the living room. I was laying down in my bedroom at the top level, which was at the end of a small walkway that had my parents' room at the beginning and the door leading out directly to the loft, and the computer room right next to mine. As I was laying there almost ready to go to sleep, I hear a set of footsteps run across the loft to my parents' room. My father wakes up. "What the hell are you doing?" he yells out in a weak voice. I get up out of bed and walk out of my room and down the short hallway to the edge of the loft and look down at him. "Nothing. I thought it was you," I replied. "Just quit messing around and go to bed," he said as he tucked away under a blanket. I stood there for a second trying to figure out what that was. Maybe it was... Oops, I said to myself. That cat is a little on the chunky side. As I was turning around to my left, I looked into my parents' bedroom, and there it was. If I had blinked, it would have been gone. A slender shadow, standing at the foot of my parents' bed, barely visible in the moonlight that was shining in. Just as quickly as I had seen it, a shadow from something outside had blocked all the light for a split second, and it was gone. Terrified, I ran to my room, locked my door, and laid down on my bed, heart racing. After a couple hours of laying there, I finally convinced myself I was seeing things and managed to fall asleep, but little did I know I would be seeing this thing on and off until this day. The next few months were filled with an overbearing aura of death. You could feel it in the air, sickly and dark. Things had been moving around, a lot of knocks and footsteps without a person there, and finally, whispers in the dark. This was the beginning of the end for my father, and would stay all the way up to when my mother was dying of cancer as well. It could be heard primarily in the basement, where we have a second living room, my brother's room/bathroom, and a wine room, so it's kind of its own little house. And also where I would spend most of my time from 14 on. A good place to get away. One night, my brother and I were just hanging out, watching movies and playing games. He started to feel tired, so he went to bed, leaving me up alone. By this point, things were being pretty bad around the house, so I would typically not stay up late. But I was really into that game I was playing, so I ignored my better interest. I was still gaming strong, but I could feel the air around growing colder, and couldn't ignore the sickly, unnerving aura of the house anymore. I turn up the TV and get ready to go up to my room, but I hear a voice, one that's softer than a whisper. A light voice in the air that might be coming from far away, but isn't. It's all around you. It's quiet, soft, and cold. I stood there for a few moments listening to what I was hearing. I could almost make sense of it, but it was just out of range. The only thing I do remember was the whisper of the word family. I was scared and ran straight up to my room and locked the door. You could always hear the whispers in the dark if you stayed up late enough and paid close ear. The voices were there up until the day he sold the house. The end was the hardest. He was so sick. He had lived a year when he was only given 6 months. The house was now the death house to me. Everything from the smell to the pressure and feeling of dread in every room. But we were at the end. One night, I was laying in my bedroom watching something I don't remember. My parents were laying in their usual positions in the living room, watching a movie. As I was laying there starting to get tired, I heard a slight scratching sound come from the wall that connects to my parents' closet. I think nothing of it at first. Maybe Mum's looking for something in there, I say to myself. After a few more minutes, the slight scratches turned into hard, slow sounds. I can't take it anymore, so I get up to see what was going on. As I walk up towards their room, I look over the loft and see them both in the living room watching their movie. "Hey, what's going on in your closet?" I ask my mother, who was looking up at me. "What do you mean?" My mother responds, tired and confused. "There has been a scratching sound coming from your closet for the last 10 minutes and I can't sleep because of it." I yell back, a little angrier than I meant to come across. "I don't know. Want me to check it out with you?" she responds. In the moment, I remember that these things were happening to all of us, and she's tired and ready to ignore it all for a moment of peace with my father. "No, it's fine. I'll check it out myself. Good night, Mom," I say as I turn to open their door and check out their room. As the door opens and I step inside, I was overrun with the darkness of the room. It was calm and cold, and most uncharacteristically dark. There must have been no moon outside to shine in, because the whole room was pitch black. I try the light switch to see what's going on, but the light won't work. The scratching from their closet had now stopped, and the air remained calm and cold. I thought for a second I saw a slender shadow in the corner, but I couldn't make out anything. And that's when the room turned electric. It went from calm and cold to frantic and freezing, and I saw the shadow step forward. The hairs on my neck stood up. I didn't stay for 1 second longer before slamming the door shut behind me and running to my room. That thing had been waiting, and had been for a year. It was angry and tired of waiting. My father passed away that week. The house never truly went quiet again, and I would have many talks with my family about the things going on. They all experienced them too. It became something we just ignored and became normal. The more we ignored it, things would happen more in spurts instead of being constant. Voices calling out for me in the sound of my mother, shadows moving. Although, when my mother got sick, it was even worse than before. But I'll share that story another time. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Spooky Season. I hope you enjoyed watching or listening to it as much as we did making it. If you liked it, leave a like rating down below and subscribe for future content. See you next time, and sweet dreams.